Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. So I know this is a festive period and it's very difficult for some people to look at the charts during this period, but personally I've been paying attention to every move, and so I'm just going to do a quick trade recap right here. So let's look at what we had from last week. So December 19, I took these buy positions on gold, and the intentions right here was just to see prices taking out these highs and eventually testing the next psychological level, which was above these highs. So currently this is still playing out, and once we analyze gold, I'm going to show you guys what I was looking at and what I'm still expecting on this pair. So I still have my buy positions on gold. I haven't moved my stop loss to break even yet. I'm still holding this position. The only difficulty with this is the swap fees is getting really high. So as you hold the positions, for persons who are swing trading, you understand you have to pay the swap fees. So I think the swap fees is the only thing that's irritating me on this trade right now, because the swap fees are just increasing crazily. So that's what I'm looking at, and I'll do a proper analysis once we look at gold, and I'll show you guys what I'm actually looking at and how I intend to manage this position. So that's the only position I had, the buy position on gold. And so let's do the reanalysis. So I'm going to pull this up. So let's start with the DXY, and we'll start on the daily time frame. So here's a DXY on the daily time frame, and the DXY is the first pair we analyze every time, because if you understand where the DXY is headed to, it makes it very easy for you to anticipate the moves on other pairs. So this is the DXY on the daily time frame, and this is what I'm looking at. This is the same thing we've been looking at, let's say, the previous weeks. We had this impulsive move, we had a correction, we had an impulsive move. So everything you see here is a swing move on the daily time frame, and after the swing move on the daily time frame, you have a consolidation. Now what's my anticipation on this pair, and what's the bias on this pair? So looking at it from the daily time frame, I can tell price is moving to the upside. So buyers are in control when you look at it from the daily time frame. And we have periods when you have the swing move, like here you have your consolidation, and then you have the next swing move. So now we have this swing move and we have this consolidation. So where is price most likely going to go to? We had price going off of this level 105, and the next level price can get to is 110, which is a psychological level around here. So looking at it from the daily time frame again, just going off of the structure the price is putting in, you had these highs here, these highs got taken out, you've had these new highs here, so I'm expecting these highs to get taken out at some point. So to understand this movement and to see how these highs will eventually get taken out, you need to step down to lower time frames, let's say the 8-hour time frame, the 4-hour time frame, and ask yourself, if price is moving to the upside, is there any trend line you can work with, and is there any psychological level thing you can be looking at? So if we clean this and we step down to the 8-hour time frame right here, so the swing move we had on the daily time frame, when you look at this swing move, which is this area right here, this is a swing move we saw on the daily time frame. Now you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, and it looks somewhat different, because you can tell price was moving to the upside, making higher highs and higher lows. So just moving and giving you this pullbacks to the upside, giving you this pullback. So what you see on the 8-hour time frame right here as this massive move is simply a swing move on the daily time frame. So we had our swing move on the daily time frame, which gave us this trend. You can call this like the build up thing on the 8-hour time frame, and you had this massive consolidation. You had a pivot point set on the 8-hour time frame. Now with this pivot point set on the 8-hour time frame, I'm expecting this area right here to get taken out, which is this high. So as price starts moving to the upside, it's going to give you another structure. So you had this impulse, you had a correction, you had an impulse, you had a correction. So now you've had another impulse, and you're expecting prices to pull back and keep giving you this impulse and corrections, all with the aim for us to take out this area right here. So that's something I'm looking at, and you can maintain this on lower time frames as well. So looking at it on the 8-hour time frame, this area is like the point where I'm really interested in. That's my primary focus. That's the area I'm paying attention to, which is this move going to the upside. Now for you to look at this, so on the 8-hour time frame, you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame and you understand where price is headed to, you can use the psychological level. You have 105 and then you have 110. So price has gone through 105, so the next possible area price can get to is 110, which is the psychological level right here. And if price has a test of 110 and there's an inability for the sellers to step in, we could see prices moving again to the upside, and so we can test this highs right here. So that's the buyers for me. That's my that's how I'm looking at the DXY. So the DXY for me is still moving to the upside, but as the price moves to the upside, you should expect periods when there's a consolidation or there's a pullback thing. So if we clean this and step down to the 4-hour time frame, so in the 4-hour time frame now, our aim right here is just for us to understand how this price is moving to the upside. So when you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, you're looking at the potential for the prices to pull back, and you're looking at potentials for a trend line to get violated, so you can tell if the buys, if we're having temporal sells within this overall buy structure. So look at this. You had this impulsive move on the 4-hour time frame, you had a pullback. This was easy. You had another impulsive move, you had a pullback. This was easier as well, and now you're expecting this to come in again as an impulsive move, taking out these highs. So we're looking at this on the 4-hour time frame. So the question is, when price is moving to the upside, it's making highs and it's giving you this pullbacks. So you're looking at this. So I'm going to show you something here. So you're looking at this move right here. You had an impulse, you had a pullback. So once you had this pullback on the 4-hour time frame, you had the next impulsive move like this. You had again, you had a pullback that came in. So you had a pullback to an area like this. So you should normally expect another impulsive move to take out these highs, and this is something I've been looking at on the DXY. So every time you had this pullback like this, you had this impulsive move to the upside. You had a pullback here, and I was expecting from this pullback an impulsive move to the upside. So looking at this, it's not really impulsive because we've taken out these highs, but we've had a shallow break of those highs. So this is what we're looking at on the 4-hour time frame, and this is where it becomes very interesting, because you can combine different time frames and different trend lines just to have an understanding as to what price is really trying to do. So in as much as we're looking at this from the overall structure, like let's say on the daily and the 8-hour time frame, we're looking at this as buyers being in control from these higher time frames. But when you step to lower time frames, you might see the difficulties the buyers are facing, and this could be early signs or indications of the seller stepping in, and you might at one point see the break of the trend line. So this is what I'm looking at on the 4-hour time frame. You have your impulse, you have your correction, impulse, correction. There's an impulse. You should normally wait for a correction for the next impulse, and when you look at something like this, there's a high possibility we might be getting a break of a trend line. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame. So I'm looking at this now on the hourly time frame, and there's this trend line I'm looking at on the hourly time frame right here. So same thing. You have your impulse, you have your correction, you have your impulse, and currently price had the consolidation around this point. So if you're going off of the same principles I've been talking about, just the structure, when you have an impulse, you might have a correction like this, you get another impulsive move, you might get something like this, or you get a consolidation and you get the next impulsive move. So looking at this on the hourly time frame, same thing, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So normally when you're looking at this on the hourly time frame, once this correction comes to an end, you should expect prices to move to the upside impulsively. So if prices find it difficult to break through this high and make this impulsive move, it tells you one thing: you should expect sellers to step in on the DXY, because it's just a structure thing and it's not difficult. So you're looking at this right here, you have an impulse, you have a correction, price takes off. So within this move right here, you have an impulse, you have a correction, you should expect prices to take off. So if price fails to take off this area and this area, so if we find it difficult to go through this consolidation right here, and we find it difficult to take out this area, then you could see sellers coming in. And this is very important because when you start putting these things together, let's say you're looking at the 4-hour time frame. So on the 4-hour time frame, you're expecting prices to come back to an area like this so you can take the buys. When you look at this on the hourly time frame, now it starts making sense, because on the hourly time frame you have your impulse, you have your correction, you have your impulse, you have your correction. Once this correction comes to an end, if there's an inability for the buyers to take out this area and this area, then you should expect sellers to step in. So if the sellers are coming in on the hourly time frame, then you can move back up to, like, let's say to the 4-hour time frame, and expect these sellers coming in as a pullback to test this area on the 4-hour time frame, like the trend line on the 4-hour time frame, so you can see prices moving again to the upside. So basically, I'll pay attention to what's happening on the 4-hour time frame and on the hourly time frame. So you can look at the 8-hour time frame on the DXY, but this is massive on the 8-hour time frame. So you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, impulse, correction, pivot point set, and prices moving to the upside. So the best time frame you can look at is the 4-hour time frame and the hourly time frame. So this is going to tell you a lot about the DXY. So look at this. Let's put the psychological level thing as well. Price went through 105. The next level price can get to is 110. Price is giving you this impulse correction. You have your impulse, you have your correction. So normally you should expect this impulse as well to test 110, but we're currently stopped at this area. Price is consolidating at this area, and you can look at this on the hourly time frame right now. So you step down to the hourly time frame, you're looking at the same structure we had on the 4-hour time frame, but this is a minor structure now on the hourly time frame. So you're looking at this move on the hourly time frame right here. Same principle. Price went through 105. We should expect prices to test 110. Same thing, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So price should normally take out this area, take out these highs, and give you the test of this psychological level of 110. So an inability for price to take out this area and this one, you should expect prices to break, and sellers can then step in, and you can move, let's say, to the 4-hour time frame and expect these sales to come in on the 4-hour time frame. So the big picture thing on the DXY is price moving to the upside. We've seen this from the daily, we've seen this from the 8-hour time frame, and we're still looking at this on the 4-hour time frame. Impulse, correction, impulse, you should expect a correction and for prices to move again to the upside. So pay attention to what's happening on the 4-hour time frame, pay attention to what's happening on the hourly time frame. So we could expect temporal sales to come in, and let's say we're looking at this and the sales come in on the hourly time frame. You get this inability at this point and you see prices moving to the upside. The same principle. If the sellers come in and they deliver prices to the 4-hour trend line, and there's an inability from these guys to take out this area and this one to test 110, then you could expect sales to come in as well, and the next level we're looking at is 105. So that's it for me on the DXY. It's pretty simple. So I'll pay attention to what's happening on the hourly. I'll be looking at the hourly. So I'm looking at the hourly on the DXY. So I'm looking at this area right here. So we had this impulse correction thing. You should expect prices to take up from an area like this. So if this sellers come in and we get a break, now I'm looking at sales, and the next level I'm looking at down has to be 105, which is the next psychological level below right here. This psychological level here, 105. However, if the sellers find it difficult to break through this trend line, then we can use this impulse correction, and expect prices to test 110, giving you the same thing, impulse correction, or impulse pullback, impulse pullback. So it's just the same thing. So that's what I'm looking at on the DXY, and I'll pay attention to the 4-hour time frame and the hourly time frame. So that's it for the DXY. So let's look at other pairs now. So let's look at US30. So here's US30. I'm looking at this on the daily time frame, and this is really interesting. So when you look at this pair, like US30 NAS and the S&P, I think it's lining up really good, and we should expect crazy moves coming in on these pairs, let's say next year. So let's look at this. You have an impulse right here, you had a pullback thing. This is on the daily time frame. You had an impulse. So every impulse on the daily time frame is a swing move for me. You had price coming back, consolidation. You had the next swing move on the daily time frame. So price currently has tested 45,000. And in a belief of prices to go through 45,000, you should expect prices to test 40,000, which is a psychological level right here. And there's a possibility you could see the sales coming in to test this trend line on the daily time frame for us to see prices moving again to the upside. Now on the daily time frame, this is massive. This is going to take time. So you're looking at a move like this: impulse, correction, or pullback, impulse, correction, or pullback. You're looking at this impulse. You're expecting this to pull back to an area like this. This is going to take time. So for you to understand what's happening, you need to step down to lower time frames as well. So let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame. So I have this trend line here on the 8-hour time frame. Same principle again. You have your impulse, you have your correction, and price took off. So same move, you have this consolidation, price taking off. So while we're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, I bring in the psychological levels again. So price came from this area. So we had a test of 40,000. You're looking at this area right here. Price tested 40,000. And we had a swing move all the way to 45,000. So once price got to 45,000, sellers stepped in, and there was an inability for the buyers to go through 45,000. So now look at this. Look at what's happening. You should normally expect prices to sell once you have this inability for prices to go through 45,000. You should normally expect prices to test 40,000. But you're looking at this right now, and there's a trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So this is very important, and that's why I keep telling you, I'm using two principles here. You have the psychological levels and you have the trend lines. So looking at it from this point with the psychological levels, you're expecting prices to test 40,000 due to this inability for prices to go through 45,000. But as price starts moving to the downside, you need to bring in the trend line. So let's clean this and look at this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So you had this massive move, you had a consolidation, and you had the next swing move. So if you say your pivot point had been set right here, so I'm looking at this, you have your pivot point set right here. So every time price pulls back to an area like this on the 8-hour time frame, you should expect buyers to step in. So it's a very simple principle. You have an impulse, correction, impulse. So you have an impulse, correction, impulse. So you're waiting for this correction for buyers to step in again. So US30, looking at it from the 8-hour time frame, the buyers are still in control on this pair. And so everything you see right here is just a pullback, and this is something we've been expecting. The only problem is now price has pulled back to this area. So you're looking at a pullback to an area like this. So while you're looking at this pair, you start asking yourself questions like, is price giving you a setup where you can take the buys? Because that's the only thing that's left. So we was expecting this already. You had this massive move, and we was expecting like this sales to come in. So this move from the sellers. So all you have to do is look at the sales coming in, and if you can identify the point where the sales complete, then you can take the buys all the way to 45,000. That's the next level we can test again. So let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame. Let's see on the 4-hour time frame. So this is pretty interesting. So on the 4-hour time frame, you're looking at this impulse, correction, impulse again, correction. You had an impulse, you had a correction. So you had this inability for buyers to step in at this area, and you had a violation of this 4-hour trend line. So because we had a violation of this 4-hour trend line, I kept looking at this on the 8-hour time frame just to understand what price is doing. So you had an impulse here, correction, you had an impulse, so you had a violation on the 4-hour time frame. Once you have a violation on the 4-hour time frame, price tends to deliver to the next time frame above that, and so that's the 8-hour time frame. So you had this sales coming in on the 8-hour time frame simply as a pullback. So while looking at this as a pullback, the next anticipation for me is to see prices moving again to the upside, so testing 45,000. So all I have to do is zoom into an area like this on the 8-hour time frame, zoom into an area like this, and watch what price is doing. Like this area right here, I'm going to pay attention to this. So if I can see a setup as price, so price is pulling back, massive sales, buyers have stepped in, so I'll pay attention to what's happening here. An inability for the sellers to move again to the downside. So let's say you find sellers stepping in, but there's an inability for the sellers to take out this area, and you just see some kind of a consolidation thing. So the setup is just you looking for this inability for the sellers to take prices to the downside. Once I can spot that and it gives me that perfect setup thing, then I'll look for the buys again to the upside. Now if I'm looking at buys to the upside, the next level I'm paying attention to has to be 45,000, which is this psychological level above 40,000. So that's the area I'm looking at. So I think on US30 is really simple. We've had the pullbacks, but now we need to wait for the setup to align properly and for us to take those buys. Now this is interesting as well, so let's look at this. So we had the pullback that came from this impulse, and so we're expecting prices to move to 45,000. Once we can tell the sellers have come to an end, or the sellers are finding it difficult to make these sales. Now there's a possibility these sellers might take off from an area like this, and you see them taking out this lows and giving you a break of this trend line. So if I see something like this, then my bias is going to switch as well, because you could see a pullback and you see prices testing 40,000. So if something like this happens, I'll step back to the daily time frame and I'll look at this on the daily time frame, because this is very interesting. You have this swing move on the daily time frame, and you can look at this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So normally you're expecting a pullback and for prices to move again to the upside on the 8-hour time frame, because this aligns with what's happening on the daily. So however, if these buyers fail to take prices from an area like this to the upside, you could see a break of this area, a pullback, and price is probably going to test 40,000. And now this opens the room for massive sales on this pair, because you have this area to play with. So you see prices moving to the downside, so you can test 40,000, and there's also a possibility for you to test this trend line. So if the buyers find it difficult to take off from an area like this, so I'm looking at the 8-hour time frame, at the same time I'm looking at the daily time frame. So I'm preparing myself already. If we fail to take the buys from this area to test 45,000, or let's say we take the buys from this area and we get a test of 45,000, if we find it difficult to go through 45,000, we're looking at massive sales to test 40,000 and to test this trend line. And this can come in like this, which is the easiest one, or you can consolidate. So you can get this consolidation, so prices can test this trend line and for prices to move again to the upside. So I think there's massive potential on US30. It just depends on the time frame you're looking at and the setup you're looking at. So two possibilities: we could get another buy again to test 45,000, an inability for the buyers to take prices above 45,000 and above these highs. You probably might see the sellers stepping in, and then once you have the sellers coming in, you get a pullback thing. You see prices testing 40,000, which is the easy one. You just see prices coming like this, or you get a massive consolidation and you see prices moving to the upside. So that's it for me on US30. So you can step down to lower time frames, maybe the hourly, but personally looking at this on the daily time frame and on the 8-hour time frame, I'll pay attention to these two time frames and I'll work my way all like to the upside just looking at this. So that's it for me on US30. So let's look at the next one, and that's NAS100. So this is NAS100. I'm looking at this on the daily time frame again. The daily time frame is the highest time frame I look at. So let's understand the structure on NAS100. So you had an impulse right here, you had a pullback thing, you had your swing move, you had a pullback consolidation pivot point set, you had price taking off. So once price took off, it gave you the next swing move. So while you have the swing move right here, you're expecting prices again to pull back to this trend line on the daily. So if prices pull back to this area on the daily, like this trend line on the daily, you should expect prices to move again to the upside. So that's easy. You should expect these prices to move to the upside. So you're looking at the trend line, you're looking at the psychological level. So on the daily time frame, this is, as I always say, this is probably going to take time for this drop to happen. So you can look at the next area or the next time frame. So let's look at the 8-hour time frame. So you put in a trend line as well on the 8-hour time frame. So this is what I'm looking at, the 8-hour time frame. You have your impulse, you have your correction, you have a pivot point set. As price takes off, it comes back to the pivot point, and price takes off again. Price came back to the pivot point. So I'm looking at this right here. We had this minor violation of this trend line, but you can see like the buyer stepped in again, and there was an inability for the buyers to test 22,000. There was an inability for the buyers to take out these highs. So this is getting complex now, so I'm going to clean this. So looking at this, so let's go off of the principles again. So going off of the psychological levels, so you had price testing 22,000, and normally an inability for prices to go through 22,000, you should expect the next level to get tested, which is 21,000. So we had price selling all the way to 21,000, and you had buyers reacting from this area. So with the buyers reacting from this area of 21,000, I was expecting the buyers to test an area like 22,000. So we had these buys coming in, but we had this inability to test 22,000. So this is looking really complex right now on the 8-hour time frame. So we had an attempt to test 22,000, the psychological level. We didn't test this area and we didn't test this highs, and the seller stepped in again. So looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, we haven't really taken out this trend line, because we did attempt to take out the trend line here, but we had buyers stepping in again. So you're looking at the same thing. You're seeing this attempt from the sellers, and you're still seeing buyers coming in. So we should expect the buyers to continue the move again and test 22,000 and even take out this high. So those are the possibilities I'm looking at on NAS100. So there's still a possibility for us to see the buys. So I think I'll look at, let's say, the 4-hour time frame and the hourly time frame just to make sense of what's happening. So let's clean this and let's look at the 4-hour time frame. Let's do 4 hours. All right, cool. So this is interesting. So I'm looking at this on the 4-hour time frame. So I had this trend line on the 4-hour time frame. I had this violation. Once we had this violation, we had price delivering to the 8-hour time frame. So that's fine. So I'll stick to the 8-hour time frame right now. All right, cool. So same thing, yeah. We're looking at this move. We're seeing this consolidation, pivot point set, impulse as price comes back to the pivot point. You had this next swing move, and you had this pullback thing right here. So looking at this right now, let's zoom into an area like this. So looking at this right now, so this move on NAS100 has a lot to do with what's happening on the DXY, because if we have the DXY, so let's say we're looking at the DXY right here on the hourly time frame. If the buys on the DXY decide to take off from an area like this and start moving to the upside, taking out this area and taking out this area, this can cause this pair, this sells on NAS100 to come in, and you could see prices coming back to test 21,000. So it's very important. So I'm looking at this on, it's at a very crucial point, because normally you have this impulse, you have a correction, and you should expect prices to take off and take out these areas, testing 22,000, and you see prices moving to the upside. But we had an attempt from the buyers. So we had a test of 21,000. We had an attempt from the buyers, inability for the buyers to test 22,000, and we had sellers coming back in. So at this point, I'm looking at NAS100. This is my expectation. If price comes back to trade within this trend line, so if price pulls back within this area, we can see a pullback here, an inability for the sellers to take prices below this trend line, then you can see buyers stepping in again. So this is the only way I'm going to get involved on, let's say, on NAS100. I need to see the buyers coming back in. I need to see the sellers showing me this inability for them to take prices lower. Then I'll take the buyers to the upside. Otherwise, I'll sit on the side and wait for these buyers to come in, inability, then we'll look for the sales all the way to 21,000. So that's it for me on NAS100, because you can pay attention to this on the daily. So you're looking at this on the daily, there's potential on the daily as well for us to see the sales. So you have this impulsive move, you're looking at this swing move on the daily, an inability for price to go through 22,000. We had price testing 21,000, inability for prices to test 22,000 again. You might see the sellers coming in. You might see the sellers coming in to test 21,000 and eventually testing this trend line. So there's still big possibility for us to see NAS100 dropping and testing 21,000, testing the trend line on the daily time frame, so you can see this buys again to the upside. So that's a possibility. But on the 8-hour time frame, it might give us some difficulties. So I'm looking at this on the 8-hour time frame. Again, impulse correction, pivot point, impulse, pivot, pivot, pivot. Price comes back to an area like this and you're expecting the buyers to step in. So currently, what's happening on NAS100, I'm just gonna stand aside and let this whole thing, I just want to see like everything that happens here. I'll step down to lower time frames and pay attention. If price pulls back to an area like this within this trend line, I'll wait for this inability and see if I can take prices to the upside. If the structure is not really clear, I'm just gonna stand aside and watch it. So I might need more price action on this one just to see what's happening. So personally, this is my take on NAS100. If price comes back within this trend line, an inability for the sellers to take it below again, we should see prices buying. 22,000 is the area I'm looking at, and we might take out these highs, so something like this, and we see prices moving to the upside. So personally, I'm going to stand aside and just hold on. Once we have more price action, then I'll make an informed decision as to what I'm looking at on NAS100. So that's it for me on NAS100. So let's look at the S&P 500. Now, this on the daily time frame looks really good as well. So here's the S&P 500. So let's do the same thing. We start. You have your impulse right here. You have a pullback. So within this pullback thing, price takes off again, giving you a swing move. So you have an impulse correction impulse. You have the pivot point set right there. So you're looking at this on the daily time frame. Where is price currently at? So price is currently at this psychological level of 6,000. So an inability for prices to go through 6,000, you should expect sellers to come in and take prices to 5,500. And you have this trend line on the daily time frame. So you could see sellers coming in to test 5,500 and to test this trend line, so the buyers can step in again. So that's what I'm looking on the daily time frame. So now the swing move on the daily time frame, you can look at this move as a trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So you clear this and you step down to the 8-hour time frame, and this is what we're looking on the 8-hour time frame. It's really interesting right now. So you have the same thing. You have your move right here on the 8-hour time frame. You had a pullback thing and you had price taking off. So same thing, impulse, correction, impulse. So looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, let's zoom into an area like this. So what's price currently doing? So as price took off here, giving you this swing move on the 8-hour time frame, we went through 6,000, which is this psychological level. But you can see this consolidation around this area, and we had sellers stepping in again. So now what we're looking at on the 8-hour time frame, where is price most likely going to gravitate to, and what are the difficulties, or what are the structure points where price might find it difficult to go through. So you have this impulse right here, you have a psychological level right here, an inability for prices or for buyers to take prices above 6,000. You should expect prices to drop to 5,500. So why you're expecting prices to drop to 5,500? Because of this inability for the buyers to take prices above 6,000. You need to pay attention to this trend line, because an inability for prices to go through the trend line as well, it means you should expect buyers again to continue to move to the upside. And that's simple, because you have this move here, you have a pullback, buyer stepped in, you have this, you had a pullback, buyer stepped in. So you're looking at this impulse, you had a pullback, you had buyers stepping in as well. So normally, looking at this, I was expecting a test of this area, 6,000, price tested 6,000. We went above, price pulled back again. We haven't tested these highs. So here's the thing on the S&P 500. When you're looking at this from the trend line, so just using the principle of trend lines, you're looking at an impulse, you're seeing this correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So normally, once you have a pullback like this, you should expect these highs to get taken out and for prices to continue to move again to the upside. So there's two things that's causing us difficulties right here. The first one is the psychological level right here. Price hasn't really gone above the psychological level and stayed above it. So we had this move right here, inability, sellers took prices lower, buyers stepped in again, sellers brought prices again below 6,000. So at this point, I think you're seeing sellers coming in and you're seeing buyers coming in. So it's really difficult for you to tell what's happening right here. So within this area right here. So personally, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand aside as well and wait to see what's happening. If sellers step in impulsively and take out this high, you wait for a correction and we should see prices stepping down to 5,500. And on the other side, if buyers come in and take prices above 6,000 and inability for sellers to bring prices again below 6,000, then you could see prices moving to the upside. So I think you can look at it from both sides. So it's very important to pay attention to what's happening on both sides of the coin. So you can have buyers taking these prices again to the upside and you can still have sellers taking prices to the downside. So when you look at what's happening on the DXY, I think this is very important. If you understand what's happening on the DXY, or if the DXY shows you the direction it wants to take, and we said this already on the DXY, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So what's the DXY trying to do? If it takes out these highs and these highs, you could see prices moving to 110. An inability for this to take out this area and this area, then you see prices moving to the downside. So this is very important. So if the DXY moves to the upside, you're looking at the S&P, you might see this failing, an inability, and then a move to the downside. So that's one possibility. However, if the DXY finds it difficult to take off from an area like this and take out these highs on this one, you might see the DXY selling, inability, you see price dropping on the DXY, and when you step to the S&P 500, then you might see this moving back above 6,000, giving you this pullback, this inability from the sellers, and you see prices moving all the way to 6,500. That's going to be the next level for us to take prices to. So it's price is currently at a very crucial point, and I'm going to stand on just holding and wait for prices to play out. I need more price action just to understand what's happening. Yeah, so while looking at the S&P, I'm going to pay attention as well to the DXY, because an understanding as to what the DXY is trying to do is going to make it really easy for us to take those positions on the S&P, because this is just two moves I'm looking at on the DXY. A move to 110 and an inability for the buyers to take prices above this area. You see this crash, inability, and you see prices moving to the downside. So that's it. There's not a lot that can happen on the DXY because we had this consolidation already. So I could say that a consolidation will come in, but we've had the consolidation already. So we're just waiting for prices to decide at this point, a movement to the upside or a movement to the downside. So once I figure out what this is trying to do, I'll step back to the S&P and look at it again, because this can line up properly. So this is an 8-hour time frame. I'm looking at this on the daily as well, and there's a massive area to sell to. So an inability for prices to go through 6,000, we could see prices coming back to 5,500. So just looking at this, we're looking at a very good sell on the S&P, something like this. So if you're taking this for prices to get to 5,500, this is almost like 1:3, 3.43%, and that's good. That's a lot. That's a good move. So prices could even get to the trend line thing. So you might see this playing out like, so this is like 1:5, maybe 1:6 if you're extended. But basically you can get, let's say, 1:3 if you get this inability for prices to go above 6,000 and you see the sellers coming in. You could play with, let's say, 1:3 at that point. So that's something I'm paying attention to. And again, on the 8-hour time frame, we're just looking at this right now. So we're looking at this right here. Inability for buyers to go through 6,000. You're looking at this. You're looking at these sales. And on the other hand, an inability for the sellers to take prices below this point. You could see buyers stepping in, pulling back to an area like this, testing it, and you see prices going to 6,500. So that's it for me on the S&P 500. I think this is easy as well, but you need to understand, guys, sometimes you might see the setups easily, and sometimes it takes more price action for you to see and understand what these guys are trying to do. And so it's very okay for you to sit on your hands and let price play out, just giving you more price action and giving you that perfect price for you to get in and take prices for the next swing move, or you take prices for the correction that's coming in. So that's it for me on the S&P 500. So let's look at the last one, and that has to be gold. So this is gold on the daily time frame right here. So I can zoom out, but there's not, I can zoom out further than this. So let's look at this right here. So you had this correction coming in from a swing move, like let's say that from there's a swing move from the downside. You had a correction, you had price taking off, pulling back to this area, so your pivot point was set. Every time price comes back to an area like this, you're expecting buyers to step in. So looking at this on the daily time frame, at the back of your mind you should have something like this. So you're still expecting prices to come back to an area like this. You're expecting prices to pull back to 2,500 and even go lower, so you can test this on the daily time frame and you see prices moving to the upside. This is gonna take time, so you can step down to lower time frame. So we'll step down to the 8-hour time frame, and I'm looking at this on the 8-hour time frame. So the question is, where is price currently at, and where is price most likely gonna gravitate to? So we had this swing move on the 8-hour time frame. Now we have a consolidation right here. So where is price headed to? Price is currently headed to this psychological level of 3,000, and we just went through 2,500. So we had this move, 2,500 consolidation. Price went through 2,500, impulse correction consolidation thing. So I'm expecting prices again to test 3,000. Now for prices to test 3,000, there is a big possibility you might see prices pulling back to test this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, so you can take prices to the upside. So let's clean this and make it easy. Impulse correction, pivot point. There's an impulse, there's a correction. Everything you see is on the 4-hour time frame. You have this impulse, there's a violation on the 4-hour time frame. So now you're having a consolidation. So what price is trying to do, price is trying to deliver, so the sellers are trying to deliver prices to this 8-hour trend line thing right here. So you could see this consolidation continuing for a very long time. So you could see this consolidation like this continuing for some time, and for prices to take off to the upside, or an inability, and you see sellers stepping in. So looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, personally I would say the buyers are still in control, and that's easy because you're looking at it with this structure right here. You have an impulse thing, you have a correction, pivot point set. Everything you see on this part right here on the 8-hour time frame, that is a swing move. And you can look at this on lower time frames, let's say the 4-hour time frame and the hourly, for you to understand what's happening. So on the 4-hour time frame, you had this area taken out, you had this violation. So now price is consolidating as well. So as price keeps consolidating, you should expect at one point maybe a test of this area, and for prices to move to the upside, or you see a massive consolidation, a test of this, and you see prices moving to the upside. So that's it for me on gold, and that's it on the 8-hour time frame. So you can zoom in to an area like this. So let's say you zoom in on like this area, just to understand what's happening. So look at this again, the 8-hour time frame. Where is price at? So price is currently trading above 2500. Price is consolidating at an area like this. Where is price most likely gonna go to? Since we're moving away from 2500, we should expect prices to test 3000. But an inability for the buyers to take out this area and this area, you could see prices coming back to test 2500. Now this is the beauty of it. If price comes back to test 2500, which is the psychological level, you could see like the spike thing. Price might spike to test 2500 and you see prices coming back within this trend line and inability, and you see prices moving to the upside. So this right here, I have my buys already. I have my buys on this pair already. So let's look at this on the reason why I had this buys. So if you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, so once we had the violation of this area on the 4-hour time frame, you had this violation thing, you had this consolidation coming in right here. So it's the same thing I've been showing you guys. You have an impulse move, you could have a pullback and you see price taking off. You have an impulse, you have a consolidation and you see price taking off. So on this right here, you had this impulse, price taken out, price giving you this violation, you get this consolidation, and I'm expecting prices to move to the upside. If you treat this area as a consolidation or as a range, you see price moving up, pulling back, moving up, pulling back. You're looking for buys at the bottom of the range so you can then take prices to the upside. And so that was a simple reason for me taking this buys right here. So you're looking at this move again, and I'm expecting prices to move to the upside, to take out this area, and for us to test 3000. So that's it for me on gold. And you can look at this on the hourly as well. So let's say you're looking at this on the hourly. So this is what I'm looking on the hourly time frame. So if we take out this area right here and we test this highs, this move alone should give you, let's say, 1:11, and it's a swing move. So the difficulty, as I mentioned during the trade recap thing, is you're paying lots of fees when it comes to like the swap fees. So just holding this, because I've been holding this from the 910, so today's like the 27. So just holding this during this period, there's a lot already. Has a lot of swap fees. I think I have about 0.1% just paying swap fees. So that's crazy. So holding this, let's say for the next 7 days, 8 days, I might be paying swap fees of about 0.3% of my account size. So that's crazy. So it's just a swap fees. So but that's it for me on gold. I'm still expecting prices to move to the upside, and as I told you guys, I haven't managed this position. I haven't taken my stop loss to break even. I still have everything in place just as it is. So looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, there's a high possibility, sorry, let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame. There's a high possibility prices might stop me out. So you're looking at this impulse again, you're looking at price pulling back, the consolidation thing. Price can move to the downside. Let's say the sellers might step in and you see prices moving to the downside just so they can test this trend line and also test this psychological level right here, and you see buyers coming back in and you see the move again to the upside. So there's a high possibility for something like this to happen, but an inability for prices to go below this point, then you should expect buyers to test this area, and you see prices moving all the way to the next psychological level, which is 3000. So that's a massive move as well. That's a massive move on gold, and that's a massive move on the 8-hour time frame. And that's why personally I have prices testing this area and this area as my target point. If I can play these prices through an area like this to test this highs, that's it for me. I'm gonna cap my buys at that point and just wait for the next move. So alright guys, so that's it. I think it's very easy. I think we've gone through all the pairs. I've shown you. So the DXY is the main thing for me. If this guy starts selling, so if the DXY starts selling, you have this impulse correction. Normally you should expect the buys from this point. If the DXY drops and starts giving you a move like this, you should expect the buys on those other pairs. So you're looking at the S&P, you're looking at this, a move above 6,000, pull back. You're looking at this on the S&P. On NAS100, same thing. You're expecting prices to come back within this trend line, pull back, take off. Now you look at US30, same thing. There was this push to the downside. You get this inability, you see prices taking off. And on gold, same thing. You're looking at this impulse correction move, inability for sellers to step in. You're looking at the move again to the upside. So that's it for me for this week, and I wish you guys a good trading week. And as we step into the new year, make sure you keep analyzing the pairs, keep looking at prices. It's gonna help you once we step into the next year, because every move you're expecting for next year, you need to have seen this move already in December. So you need to see how price is lining up, how price is setting up for the next year. Alright guys, so that's it for me, and I wish you all happy new year in advance. So stay patient and stay consistent, and see you during the next one. Bye for now.